What if I told you that there were habits that you currently lack that are keeping you from becoming rich? Would you want to know what they are? Have you ever checked your bank balance and wondered where all your money went? If this sounds like you, then more likely than not you are practicing money habits that will keep you poor forever. Habit number 1, spending more than you make. Let's face it, spending money is fun. In fact, there is scientific evidence to support this phenomenon. When you're considering buying something, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical produced by our brains that plays a starring role in motivating behavior. It gets released when we take a bite of food, when we have sex, after we exercise, and when we spend money. In an evolutionary context, it rewards us for beneficial behaviors and motivates us to repeat them. This is why humans have such a hard time resisting spending, and often this spending is only curbed when all funds have been depleted and credit cards have been maxed out. However, when people come into money, this problem perpetuates. Maybe you got a bonus at work, or maybe you got a promotion. These increases in income trigger our inclination to spend as we continue to chase that dopamine high. But it's not just the dopamine high that makes us open our wallets and spend. We also feel an intense need to fit in with our peers, and one way we can maintain our social status in society is by having the nicest clothes or the newest car. Unfortunately, this incessant spending is keeping you broke. You see, if you spend every dollar you make, you will never be able to save money, invest, or retire. What separates the rich from the poor is the management of their money. Whereas the majority of people spend every new dollar they earn, the rich maintain their modest lifestyles as their incomes rise. This allows them to begin saving more and more money as their cash flow increases. But the rich don't just hoard this money. They then deploy this money into investments like Roth IRAs, mutual funds, investment properties, or their own business to allow this cash to grow further. Therefore, if you want to become wealthy, then you must avoid spending more as your income rises. Habit number 2, sacrificing future happiness for present pleasure. There are two types of people in this world, those who live for today and those who build for tomorrow. And unfortunately, the majority of people fall into the first category. Now, don't get me wrong, enjoying the present is very important because no one knows how long each of us have to live. But more likely than not, you will make it to tomorrow, and if you are always trading future rewards for present pleasure, then you will never be rich. This trade-off is actually one of the big differentiators between the rich and the poor. When the rich make more money, they forgo the desire to spend the money today, and instead sock it away into savings and investments that grow in value and provide financial resources that can be used in the future to maintain their current standard of living. In financial terms, delaying gratification is known as delay discounting, and it takes place when someone decides to discount the value of future rewards to immediately gratify themselves, even though accepting a lesser reward isn't exactly rational. The rich know that future payoffs will be greater than present rewards, and studies strongly support how this restraint from present gratification can lead to larger income realizations in the future. In a study of over 2,500 people, participants were asked whether they would hypothetically accept a smaller sum of money, $500 USD, or a larger sum, $1,000 USD, after a delay, which could be 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 6 months, or a year. When the researchers used machine learning algorithms to model the relationship between individuals' tendency for delay discounting and the other self-reported variables, they found that delay discounting was more predictive of income than age, ethnicity, race, and height. Therefore, if you truly want to become rich, then you must take the future into perspective whenever you're making financial decisions. Although it is good to take care of everything in the present, do your best to save for your future. Habit number 3. You think you're too young to worry about saving. Let's be real, when we're young, our primary focus is to look cool and fit in with those around us. To do this, we buy the newest clothes and the latest gadgets to feel like we are part of the in crowd. We are much more worried about our social status than saving for a house or for our retirement. This carefree attitude leads us to spending every penny we earn, leaving little to support us down the road. In reality, you were never too young to start saving, and just as importantly, investing. Take Warren Buffett, for example. He bought his first stock at age 11, and over the course of numerous decades has leveraged his mastery in investing to become one of the richest men in the world. Let's use an example to illustrate just how important it is to get serious about your finances from an early age. Say we have two people, Mike and Steve. Mike begins investing at age 19, investing $2,000 a year at 12% for just 8 years, meaning that his last investment is at age 26. Steve, on the other hand, waits until he's 27 to start investing and invests $2,000 a year at 12% until age 65. Who do you think will end up with more money at age 65? Well, Steve seems like the logical choice because he invested for 39 years compared to Mike's 8 years. Mike actually ends up with an extra $700,000 over Steve because of when he started investing. So as this example proves, it is never too early to start saving and, more importantly, investing your money. Habit number 4, not tracking your spending. We all think we know where our money comes from and where it ends up. Sadly, that's not true for most of us. We might be aware of our major expenditures like buying a car or getting a new phone, but the small things usually eat up our finances more than the big ones. For instance, when I used to not track my expenses, more often than not I would open up my credit card statement at month's end and be completely shocked by how much bigger my bill was than I anticipated. The truth is that all the nights out, coffees, and clothes I was buying was adding up to much more than a large expenditure would every month, which squandered any chance I had at saving money. It was only once I came across the quote by Peter Drucker, "What isn't measured isn't managed," that I knew that I had to change my ways and started tracking my expenses. Being the lazy person that I am, I avoided setting up complicated apps or programs and simply began writing down all my purchases in my iPhone notes. This simple yet effective strategy allowed me to see exactly where my money was going, and I still use this technique to this day. However, the strategy didn't solve all my money issues, because while I was tracking my expenditures, I still found myself overspending, which leads us to habit number 5. Habit number 5, lack of budgeting. Now, maybe you are already tracking your spending. If so, great, but if you don't spend according to a plan, then you may still find yourself in financial trouble. You see, you could be tracking the fact that you are spending hundreds of dollars on drinks and clothes every month, causing you to rack up a significant amount of credit card debt, which will leave you in as much trouble as if you weren't tracking at all. This is where a budget comes in, and one of the best ways to budget is by using the 20-30-50 method. This budgeting technique works by dividing your income in the following 3 ways. 50% is designated to living expenses like rent, utilities, and groceries. The next 30% goes towards entertainment costs like going out to eat or seeing a movie. The final 20% is meant to go right into your savings account. This means that you can now track your expenses according to the amounts you've designated at the start of each month, ensuring that your money goals are achieved. Habit number 6, ignoring your debt. As of June 2019, Americans are in more than $500 billion worth of credit card debt, with the average household having a balance of almost $7,000 on their cards. This insane amount of debt doesn't even factor in auto loans, student debt, and the largest debt, mortgages. In short, the United States has a debt issue, and part of this problem is that debt has gotten out of hand for so many people that the only way they can cope with this financial struggle is by ignoring it. In fact, the issue's gotten so bad that 10% of Americans say that they don't even think they will ever be free of credit card debt. So how has this issue propagated to this extreme? Debt has become an issue in Western culture for a few reasons. Firstly, most people are unaware of the almost infinite ways there are to make money, meaning that their income is limited to what their employer will pay them, which more often than not is not a lot. Second, people are in a constant struggle to compete with their peers in order to feel a sense of social validation, which they do through spending, which has been perpetuated by the rise in social media. Finally, debt operates in a vicious cycle. When debt isn't paid off, interest charges are added to the already insurmountable balance, meaning that the debt grows bigger and bigger over time. When this happens, people begin to ignore their debt completely, which has caused the United States to have more than $13 trillion worth of debt outstanding. So if you want to avoid this bad habit, then make paying your debt a top of the list item on your agenda. Work out a plan for this and stick to it, no matter what. Habit number 7, constantly upgrading your electronic gadgets. It seems like every year, technology companies release new phones, computers, and tablets, making the ones we currently have even more obsolete than they already were. While the newest gadgets rarely have any significant differences in their functionalities, these companies know that on a psychological level, us humans are wired to want the latest electronics, but not because of their functions, but because of the social status that they can offer us. For instance, every year Apple comes out with at least one new version of the iPhone. And while some years the changes between models are significant, most years they aren't. But what does change is the fact that you no longer have the newest model iPhone, which leaves you as a social outcast if the rest of your social circle decides to upgrade their phones. And this phenomenon is pervasive amongst every material item in the world, like clothes and of course cars. Besides these upgrades being rather irrational, they erode our ability to save money. Upgrading your phone can easily cost a couple $100s, which could be put to much better use if it was saved, or better yet, invested. In short, it's okay to not have the newest gadgets, and if you aren't accepted by your peers because of it, then you're probably not hanging around with the right people anyway. So when you feel the urge to upgrade your electronics coming on, take a page out of William Shatner's playbook when he says, "If saving money is wrong, then I don't want to be right." From an early age, I have always been curious as to what separated the rich and the poor. When I would see a rich person driving around in a fancy car, I would wonder how they were able to afford such an expensive vehicle, while my parents could barely make the payments on the modest vehicle they had. It made me wonder how two people living in the same city, with the same 24 hours in the day, could be living such different financial lives, and so I took it upon myself to learn what the rich were doing that was driving their success. This led me to reading numerous books on the success of the world's richest individuals, and through my studies, I began to notice a trend. Book after book, person after person, I started to notice that each of the individuals I studied had habits that they employed in their lives that directly contributed to their success. Then about 10 years ago, I stumbled across a book that confirmed everything I had been studying for years. The book, Rich Habits: The Daily Success Habits of Wealthy Individuals by Tom Corley, was a byproduct of a 5-year study where the author observed the habits of 233 rich individuals and 128 poor people who were living in poverty to see how their daily lives contributed to their financial position. The author noticed significant differences between the two groups as it pertained to their day-to-day activities, and through this observational study was able to pinpoint the 7 habits that made these 233 individuals successful, which are the following. Number 1, they're persistent. While we generally think of persistence as more of a personality trait, it's certainly a habit that can be learned and practiced over time. When faced with adversity, wealthy individuals keep pushing through, knowing that success will come in due time. The value of persistence is well explained in the book The Dip, written by marketing master Seth Godin. Godin illustrates the dip as a long curve between starting out and making it to the top. It's where you find the resistance that can wear you down and make you want to quit. But the rich understand that all good things take time, and they are willing to ride out the dip to realize the success that lies on the other side. In fact, becoming a millionaire takes longer than you would probably expect. While it's true that from time to time we will see young people like Mark Zuckerberg and Kevin Systrom becoming billionaires in their earlier years, it takes the average person 32 years to become a millionaire. Moreover, only 4% of people are able to eclipse a 7-figure net worth in a still lengthy 27-year period, meaning that if you want to become rich, being persistent and very patient is a must. Number 2, they set specific and attainable goals. Whether we realize it or not, we're constantly setting goals for ourselves. Anytime we look to the future and think about what we'd like to have or do, we're essentially setting a goal for ourselves. The problem with many of these goals, of course, is that they aren't specific and they aren't necessarily realistic. For instance, your goal may be too vague. You may say that your goal is to become rich, but what does rich even look like? Or your goal may be unrealistic. For instance, if you're working for minimum wage and want to amass enough money to retire next year, then that goal will be nearly impossible to obtain. The average person's financial goals are a large factor in why they aren't rich. If you ask them what their goals consist of, they would say something like, "My goal is to retire at 65, or "My goal is to make 6 figures one day." In short, their lackluster money goals resemble their mediocre financial lives. The rich, on the other hand, make a habit of setting solid financial goals. In fact, about 80% of the wealthy are obsessed with pursuing goals, which includes the creation and review of short, medium, and long-term goals. Corley found that wealthy individuals consistently set specific, attainable goals. These goals were realistic and had to have a specific set of actions that would need to be carried out in order to be met. For instance, instead of saying, "I would like to earn $1 million this year," a more realistic and specific goal might be, "I will bring in an additional $25,000 this year by increasing my production capacity." Assuming it's actually possible to increase production, this is a goal that can realistically be obtained through careful planning and hard work. One very effective method for creating specific and attainable goals is by using the SMART goal framework. This method requires your goal to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. For instance, using the SMART goal framework, your financial goal could be save $12,000 in my high-interest savings account in 12 months by setting up $1,000 monthly deductions with my employer. Having a robust goal that satisfies all the elements of the SMART goal framework is much more likely to have you succeed than creating vague goals like save money or become rich. Number 3. They have mentors. Plato had Socrates and Aristotle had Plato, and for 93% of wealthy individuals, having a mentor is a key driver in long-term success. While finding a mentor can be challenging, the payoff can be huge. This is why almost all major companies employ mentorship programs in their organizations, as the sharing of knowledge is critical to the business's success. In fact, 71% of Fortune 500 companies have mentorship programs, claiming that building these relationships improve employee performance, productivity, and innovation. Moreover, employees who had mentors are promoted 5 times more often than those who don't. But beyond increasing your output and moving into higher salary ranges, one of the main benefits of mentorship is saving time. Working with a mentor can allow you to leverage their years of experience, which you can then use to carve your own path to success. These mentors can also help you avoid unpleasant mistakes. In fact, in a 2016 Harvard Business Review study, 84% of CEOs said that their mentors helped them avoid costly mistakes, which is just one of the many benefits that having a mentor can have on your own success. Number 4, they are positive. According to Corley's observations, the wealthy individuals he observed generally had a positive outlook on life, were upbeat and happy, and were grateful for what they had. And if you think that positivity doesn't impact financial success, then consider this. Many of the richest people in the world made their wealth by starting businesses. However, 20% of businesses fail in their first year, 30% of businesses fail in their second year, and 50% of businesses fail after 5 years in business. Finally, 70% of small business owners fail in their 10th year of business. In short, starting a business comes with its trials and tribulations, and in order to ride the waves of uncertainty and hardship, you must maintain a positive outlook. But what if you don't run your own business? Can positivity still bring you financial success? The simple answer is yes. A 2008 study revealed that positive people are happier at work and perform better in their tasks, which equated to better chances at advancement and overall compensation. Therefore, if you want to start living like the rich, you need to maintain a positive outlook on life. Number 5, they educate themselves. Based on a vast amount of research, we can confirm that the saying, "the more you learn, the more you earn," is entirely accurate. Studies find that 88% of wealthy individuals spent at least 30 minutes each day reading in order to expand their knowledge. In addition, 85% read 2 or more books per month on an ongoing basis. And no one better exemplifies this statistic than Warren Buffett. The investing mogul spends on average 5 hours a day reading newspapers and corporate reports, and admits that this commitment to reading has helped him make some of his best financial decisions. But the rich don't limit their education to just books. Take the example of Canadian entrepreneur and multimillionaire Dan Lok, who invests more than $500,000 a year into his education in the form of courses, coaching, and many other learning opportunities. Now, there are definitely people who aren't rich that read and invest in their education, but one of the main findings from Corley's study pertaining to education was that wealthy individuals were able to translate what they learned into actionable information that they could apply in their lives, whereas the poor couldn't. In essence, the rich made a habit of prioritizing self-education and used what they learned to reach their goals and improve their lives. Number 6, they avoid lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is defined as the act of increasing your standard of living in order to match your increased income, and the rich know that avoiding this phenomenon is critical to building wealth. You see, for the average person, when they begin to make more money, their level of spending rises accordingly. For instance, you may be fine driving around in your $20,000 sedan when you're struggling to pay your bills. But once you get a big promotion or your business takes off, you may find yourself wanting to splurge on that fancy $100,000 sports car. And this is one of the big differentiators between the rich and the poor. When the rich make more money, they forego the desire to spend the money today and instead sock it away into savings and investments that grow in value and provide financial resources that can be used in the future to maintain their current standard of living. In financial terms, delaying gratification is known as delay discounting, and it takes place when someone decides to discount the value of future rewards to immediately gratify themselves, even though accepting a lesser reward isn't exactly rational. The rich know that future payoffs will be greater than present rewards, and studies strongly support how this restraint from present gratification can lead to larger income realizations in the future. In a study of over 2,500 people, participants were asked whether they would hypothetically accept a smaller sum of money, $500 USD, or a larger sum, $1,000 USD, after a delay, which could be 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 6 months, or 1 year. When the researchers used machine learning algorithms to model the relationship between individuals' tendency for delay discounting and the other self-reported variables, they found that delay discounting was more predictive of income than age, ethnicity, race, and height. Therefore, if you truly want to become rich, you must remain diligent in your conservative spending ways. Number 7, they surround themselves with success-oriented people. As the saying goes, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and wealthy individuals seem to intuitively understand the importance of being around other goal and success-oriented people. Whereas the average person will spend time with whoever is around, the rich are intentional in nurturing positive relationships to ensure that they grow over time. The rich often spend time with other wealthy individuals because being around other successful people can act as a motivational tool that will spark their own enthusiasm and drive. Moreover, being surrounded by others who are making things happen allow them to model their best practices after one another, which only further progresses the growth of their wealth. Author Tom Corley suggests dedicating 30 minutes each and every day to nurturing such a relationship. This can mean being a sounding board, giving advice, or just generally being a helpful companion. As you build and nurture this relationship, that person is likely to reciprocate and become a trusted and valuable supporter. Thanks for watching. If you want to go from the life you have to the life you deserve, then hit the subscribe button now.